My name is Gabe Miller. I'm 28. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I grew up really my formative years in Nebraska as a small child. I was born in Colorado, moved to Nebraska when I was about 1 year old with my parents, who were both from a small town in Nebraska called North Platte. Um, and life growing up, I was really I had a great childhood. I had parents who I knew cared and loved me. Uh, um, I had an older sister who got involved in, she was real rebellious, and she kind of went off on her own thing, and like we had like my parents really struggled with her, and she ended up getting into addiction early on in her life. I started out just swallowing painkillers. Uh, then it developed into, like, what's that? What are heavy? Like, how can I feel even more? You know. But I went and I explored and tried everything because, and I purposely put myself around guys who were open-minded to that, like, and started hanging out with them. And I'd lose jobs, and I'd, you know, damage relationships, and I would just blow everything else off for that. And it became like very, very desperate to where, that was the main driving force of my life, was to get high. Um, I was pretty much at that point, I was homeless. I had burned all the bridges that I had to cross. I was I'd tried just about everything that I could, short of going to a recovery program to get help. I was back at my mother's house because that was the only place I had to sleep other than on the street. And my nephew was diagnosed with leukemia. My mom had been raising my nephew since he was 1 year old. Uh, and so he was like a little brother to me. He still is like a little brother to me. But he was in and out. He was in and out of the hospital. Well, mostly in the hospital, undergoing his radiation and chemotherapy. And they had done his full treatment. They had done all the chemo and radiation that could be done on his body. And my mom was telling me, you're sitting here on the couch, you're trying to kill yourself, and your nephew's upstairs fighting for his life. That didn't really register to me. I was still very like self-centered, and I wasn't focused on that. But when she came and told me, like, you need to leave, your nephew's dying and you're trying to kill yourself, and I knew she meant it. She'd said that, she's said things like that to me before, but for some reason this time, I don't know, I wasn't by any means happy with the way I was living anyway. And I was really had given up on life. So I was like, I kind of just threw up my hands and said, I'll do whatever needs to be done. I'll get out of your hair. I got on a flight down to Florida to come to the Justin's Place program. And I entered, and I was still very like reluctant about doing that. I don't think I was really had processed the idea of not using drugs or alcohol anymore. But I got here, and I was kind of dealing with that. It kind of hit me all at once when I walked in the door and got settled into the house, and I was like, man, I'm really doing this, and I struggled with it a lot. It was almost like I really had to mourn my addiction's death. Somewhere along the way, I started to realize that it wasn't just about me. There were guys around me that were trying to change their lives for the better and separate themselves from their addiction and experience freedom from that as well. And it didn't take long for me to realize the importance of that, and to start participating in other people's recovery and their spiritual walk, and wanting to encourage other people. And because whenever I would encourage people, I would feel encouraged. And that's why I still do that. So today I'm a case manager for Justin's Place program. I meet with the men in the program one-on-one twice in their 28-day stay at the house that I work at. The first meeting, I typically just try to get to know them and talk about their spirituality, talk about their recovery, get to know where they're coming from, what their situation looked like before they got there, what was the desperation like for them, and explain that desperation was a gift, and that's what got them to a place where they could really change their life, and then I get to encourage and use that gift of encouragement that I kind of developed throughout going through the program myself, and experienced from other guys ahead of me that were encouraging me, and I get to turn around and share that with another guy, get to do it every day, which I love that I get to do that. So, sitting on my mom's couch in Colorado, like completely resigned to my addiction, I never imagined that I would be doing what I'm doing today, helping another person. I thought I was beyond being helped myself, so I never imagined that I would be able to have anything to offer another person, especially another person in addiction, other than maybe their next high or their next drug. So gratitude is probably the best word to describe it. Before I go to bed at night, and I talk about this a lot to the men in the program, that like before I lay down to go to bed, like many times I think to myself, I'll say, like, man, I can't wait to go to work tomorrow. I can't wait to get up and do what I did today again. And like, I don't ever recall feeling that way in my addiction, or before that, or having that sense of purpose that I was searching for before I even got into my addiction. I don't ever recall that. So joy, gratitude, I'm extremely grateful for where I'm at today, and that I get to have that sense of purpose and give back to somebody else who's experiencing the pain and the desperation that I was experiencing, and just to let them know that that's, there's freedom from that, and that they can get past that, and there's a better life for them.